The warning lights flashed red across the control panel of Jack Mason's research vessel, the Stargazer. The small ship drifted silently through the darkness of unexplored space, its sensors picking up an unexpected signal. Jack leaned forward in his pilot's seat, his tired eyes studying the readings with growing interest. "Computer, what are we looking at?" he asked, brushing aside a few stray crumbs from his last meal. "Unknown structure detected. Preliminary scans suggest it is a research station. No active power signatures detected." The ship's AI responded in its usual calm voice. Jack scratched his beard thoughtfully. He hadn't expected to find anything in this empty sector of space. He was supposed to be mapping stellar phenomena, not investigating abandoned stations. But curiosity had always been his weakness. "Any signs of life?" he asked, already plotting an approach vector. "Negative. However, the station's condition suggests recent activity. Exercise caution. Researcher Mason." The Stargazer glided closer to the station, its external lights illuminating the dark metal structure. The station was roughly circular, with several extended arms that probably served as research labs. One section of the hull showed significant damage, as if something had torn its way out rather than in. Jack docked his ship at the main airlock, double-checking his environment suit's seals. "Computer, maintain active scans, and be ready for emergency departure." "Acknowledged. Please note that this deviates from standard research protocols." Jack smiled as he pulled on his helmet. "Since when have I ever stuck to standard protocols?" The airlock cycled, and Jack stepped into the silent station. His suit lights cut through the darkness, revealing scattered papers, broken equipment, and signs of a struggle. The artificial gravity was still working, but the air had long since vented through the hull breach. As he moved deeper into the station, his suit's sensors picked up faint traces of blood, both human and something else. The walls bore deep scratch marks, and several security doors had been torn apart as if they were made of paper. "Computer, analyze these damage patterns," Jack whispered, taking samples with his scanner. "Warning. Damage patterns match known signatures of Class A predator species, specifically the shadow hunter. Recommend immediate evacuation." Jack's heart rate spiked. Everyone knew about shadow hunters, the most lethal predatory species ever encountered. They were the stuff of spacers' nightmares, responsible for more deaths than any other known creature. But something didn't add up. If there was a shadow hunter here, why was there a research station? They're supposed to be impossible to capture alive. He continued his investigation, following the trail of destruction. The station's labs told a disturbing story: holding cells, surgical equipment, and data pads filled with test results. This hadn't been a standard research station. They had been experimenting on something. A low rumble echoed through the station's halls, making Jack freeze in place. It wasn't mechanical. It was alive. Following the sound, Jack found himself at the entrance to what looked like a large storage area. His light beam swept across the room, revealing toppled containers and broken restraints. In the far corner, something moved. The creature was massive, easily 3 times Jack's size. Its dark scales seemed to absorb light, and its 6 eyes glowed with a dim purple light. A shadow hunter, just as the computer had warned. But it wasn't attacking. It was trapped, pinned beneath a fallen piece of equipment, and clearly injured. The creature's blood pooled beneath it, and its breathing was labored. One of its powerful limbs was clearly broken, and various cuts and burns marked its body. Despite its fearsome appearance, Jack could see pain in those glowing eyes. Pain and intelligence. "Computer," Jack whispered, "how many documented cases are there of anyone surviving a close encounter with a shadow hunter?" 0. Researcher Mason, please retreat immediately. But Jack didn't move. The shadow hunter watched him, its eyes tracking his every movement. It could have roared or tried to strike him, but it didn't. Instead, it made a low, almost questioning sound. In that moment, Jack made a decision that would change the course of human-alien relations forever. He slowly set down his scanner, raised his hands to show he meant no harm, and took a step forward. "I'm going to help you," he said softly, knowing the creature couldn't understand his words, but hoping it would understand his intent. "And I think you're going to help me understand why everyone's been so wrong about your kind." The shadow hunter's eyes widened slightly, and the rumbling sound it made changed tone. Whether through luck, intuition, or humanity's unique capacity for empathy, Jack had just initiated first peaceful contact with the galaxy's most feared predator. "Computer, scan for any medical supplies in the station," Jack said, keeping his eyes on the injured shadow hunter. He had been standing in the same spot for several minutes, letting the creature get used to his presence. Medical bay located 2 corridors down. "Warning. Approaching medical supplies will require turning your back on the predator. This action is not recommended." The shadow hunter made another low rumbling sound, shifting slightly under the fallen equipment. Its purple eyes followed Jack's movements, but there was no aggression in them, only pain and what looked surprisingly like curiosity. "Sometimes," Jack muttered, "you have to trust your gut." He slowly backed away, making sure his movements remained calm and predictable. The creature watched him go, but made no attempt to free itself. In the medical bay, Jack found several intact medkits and a portable tissue regenerator. He grabbed everything he could carry and returned to the storage room. The shadow hunter was still there. Of course, it couldn't move with its leg pinned like that. "Okay, big guy," Jack said softly, laying out his supplies. "Let's see what we can do about that leg." He approached carefully, always keeping his movements slow and visible. The creature tensed as he got closer, its scales rippling in what might have been anxiety or warning. Jack stopped immediately. "Look," he said, holding up the tissue regenerator. "This will help." He activated it, letting the soft blue light play over his own hand to demonstrate. The shadow hunter's eyes tracked the light with obvious intelligence. Carefully, inch by inch, Jack moved closer. The creature could have easily killed him with one swipe of its massive claws, but it remained still. When he was finally within reach, Jack placed the regenerator against one of the smaller cuts on its side. The effect was immediate. The shadow hunter's muscles tensed, then relaxed as the healing beam did its work. The cut began to close, and the creature made a sound unlike anything Jack had heard before, almost like a purr, but deeper. "That feels better, doesn't it?" Jack smiled behind his helmet. "Now for the hard part. We need to move this equipment off your leg." The shadow hunter's eyes flickered to the fallen machinery, then back to Jack. It made a series of low rhythmic sounds. "Computer, analyze those sounds." The frequencies suggest attempted communication. The pattern is too regular to be random. Jack nodded. "I thought so. You're not just smart. You're trying to talk to me, aren't you?" Over the next hour, Jack worked to treat the creature's wounds where he could reach them. The shadow hunter remained remarkably still, only moving to adjust its position when Jack needed to reach a different area. It continued making those rhythmic sounds, varying the patterns in what seemed like responses to Jack's words. "We need to get that equipment off you," Jack finally said, standing back to study the problem. "But it's too heavy for me alone." He looked at the creature thoughtfully. "If I push from this side, do you think you could help?" The shadow hunter's eyes narrowed slightly, and it shifted its weight. Jack took that as understanding. "On 3, okay. 1, 2, 3. Jack pushed with all his strength. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the shadow hunter heaved its massive body upward, and together they moved the equipment just enough. The creature pulled its injured leg free, making a sound of pain, but quickly dragging itself clear. Jack stumbled backward, suddenly very aware that the shadow hunter was no longer trapped. His heart pounded as the massive creature rose to its full height, towering over him. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Then, slowly, the shadow hunter lowered itself back down to Jack's level. It extended one massive clawed hand, palm up, in what could only be a deliberate gesture of peace. Jack looked at the offered hand, then at the creature's intelligent eyes. Moving carefully, he placed his much smaller hand on the shadow hunter's palm. "I think I'll call you Storm," he said quietly, "because of that rumbling sound you make." Storm's eyes seemed to brighten, and the rumbling took on a gentler tone. In that moment, something unprecedented was happening. The formation of trust between a human and the galaxy's most feared predator. While Storm rested, letting the tissue regenerator heal its leg, Jack explored more of the research station. Each new room he entered revealed more disturbing evidence of what had happened here. "Computer, download and decrypt any data files you can find," Jack said, examining a desk covered in scattered reports. His suit lights revealed dark stains on the floor that he tried not to think about too much. Processing. Warning. These files appear to be from an illegal research operation. Jack picked up a tablet that still had some power. As he scrolled through the files, his face grew darker with anger. The station hadn't been studying shadow hunters. They had been torturing them, trying to learn the secrets of their incredible healing abilities and natural weapons. A low rumble from behind made him turn. Storm stood in the doorway, moving much better now that its leg was mostly healed. The creature's purple eyes fixed on the tablet in Jack's hands, and it made a series of those rhythmic sounds he was starting to recognize as language. "They hurt you here, didn't they?" Jack asked softly. "You weren't the only one either." Storm moved into the room, carefully avoiding the broken furniture. With surprising gentleness, it reached out and touched the tablet with one massive claw. The screen changed, showing videos of holding cells filled with other shadow hunters. "You can use computers?" Jack asked in amazement. "Of course you can. You're not just intelligent, you're advanced." Storm made a sound that seemed almost sad. It pulled up more files, showing Jack things that made his blood run cold. The shadow hunters hadn't attacked ships and stations without reason. They had been protecting themselves from capture, trying to rescue their own kind from places like this. "Computer, how many research stations like this are there?" Searching public records. 27 similar facilities have been reported destroyed by shadow hunter attacks in the past 5 years. Jack looked at Storm. "You've been fighting a war that nobody knew about. Everyone thinks you're mindless killers, but you're just trying to save your people." Storm's eyes seemed to glow brighter. It moved to another computer terminal and, with careful movements of its claws, began typing. Jack watched in amazement as words appeared on the screen. "We protect. Humans take. Hurt US. Tist US. We fight. You can write our language," Jack whispered. "All this time, you could have communicated with us. Tried. Humans shoot firest. No liestn." Jack felt shame wash over him as he thought about humanity's response to encountering the shadow hunters. They had labeled them as monsters without ever trying to understand them. Storm continued typing. "You diffurent. You help. You liestn." Moving through more files, Jack and Storm uncovered the full truth. The research station was part of a secret corporate network funded by weapons manufacturers who wanted to adapt shadow hunter abilities for military use. They had been capturing and experimenting on Storm's people for years. "The public doesn't know about any of this," Jack said, downloading everything he could find. "They think shadow hunters just attack without reason. But you're an ancient species, aren't you? With your own civilization." Storm's answer appeared on the screen. "Yes. Hidden. Safe. Until humans came." Jack sat heavily in a chair, trying to process everything. The most feared predators in known space weren't predators at all. They were an advanced species fighting back against human aggression. All the attacks, all the deaths, they had been trying to rescue their captured people and protect their hidden worlds. "I'm going to help you expose this," Jack said firmly. "We'll show everyone the truth." Storm made a rumbling sound and typed again. "Dangerous. Corporations powerful. Will kill you." "Maybe," Jack admitted, "but it's the right thing to do. And I think there are plenty of humans who will help once they know the truth. The shadow hunter's eyes studied him for a long moment. Then it typed one more message. You truest US. Now we truest you. In that moment, Jack realized he wasn't just uncovering a conspiracy. He was bridging a gap between species that everyone had thought impossible to cross. But he also knew that powerful people would kill to keep this secret buried, and they would be coming for both him and Storm very soon. The warning came from Jack's ship computer, breaking the quiet of the research station. Alert. Armed vessel approaching. Class. Heavy combat. Configuration matches known bounty hunter signatures. Jack looked up from the computer terminal where he and Storm had been gathering evidence. How long until they arrive? 15 minutes at current speed. Storm moved to a nearby terminal, its claws clicking against the keys. Must ID. They kill you. Take me. No, Jack said firmly, starting to download the last of the files. I'm not leaving you here. You're still injured, and we have proof of what they've been doing to your people. We stand a better chance together. The shadow hunter's purple eyes studied him for a long moment before typing again. Nevi your foe with human and bevor. Interesting. Despite the tension, Jack couldn't help but smile. Well, I've never fought alongside a shadow hunter before either. But I've got some ideas, if you're willing to trust me. Storm made a rumbling sound that Jack was starting to recognize as agreement. They had 10 minutes to prepare, and they would need every second. Computer, what are we dealing with? Scanning. Ship is equipped with heavy weapons and boarding equipment. Crew complement estimated at 6. They are broadcasting a capture order for the shadow hunter, dead or alive. Bounty is extremely high. Jack nodded, pulling up the station's layout on a screen. Storm, you know this place better than me. Where are the best hiding spots? Places where you can surprise them. The creature pointed to several locations on the map. Then typed, VNT's large. Can MOV through G. They XP ME high D there. Good. Let them expect that. But we're going to do something different. Jack quickly outlined his plan, pointing to different areas of the station. Storm's eyes gleamed with what looked almost like appreciation. The bounty hunter ship docked 7 minutes later. Jack watched through the security cameras as 6 heavily armed figures entered the station. Their armor was top of the line, and their weapons looked military grade. Targets in here somewhere, their leader said, voice crackling over their comms which Jack had managed to hack into. Probably in the vents. Standard containment procedure. Shoot to wound if possible. It's worth more alive. And check for other survivors, but don't waste time. No one should be alive in here anyway. Jack looked at Storm and nodded. The shadow hunter slipped away silently, moving with incredible stealth despite its size. For his part, Jack headed to the station's power control room. The bounty hunters moved through the station in a practiced formation, checking rooms and watching the vents. They were professionals, but they were also predictable. They expected a wounded, frightened creature hiding in the shadows. They weren't prepared for the lights to suddenly go out, plunging the station into complete darkness. They weren't ready for the artificial gravity to shift, throwing them off balance. And they certainly weren't expecting a human voice to echo through the station's speakers. This is Research Station 7. Shadow Hunter containment protocols engage. Please remain calm and proceed to emergency stations. The automated message, which Jack had quickly recorded, had the desired effect. The hunters immediately moved to cover the vents and maintenance passages, exactly where Storm wasn't. Instead, the shadow hunter was moving silently through the main corridors, using its natural ability to see in darkness. One by one, it began disarming the hunters, using precise strikes to disable their weapons without killing them. Meanwhile, Jack used the station's systems to create chaos. Doors opened and closed randomly. Warning sirens blared. The gravity shifted again and again. The hunters' formation broke apart as they tried to deal with multiple threats at once. "What's going on?" one of them shouted. This place was supposed to be dead. Their leader's voice crackled over the comm. "Someone's playing games with us. Find them, and keep watching for the target." From his position in the control room, Jack smiled grimly. "Oh, we're not playing games," he muttered, watching Storm's progress on the thermal cameras. "We're just showing you why you shouldn't underestimate either humans or shadow hunters." The real battle was about to begin, and the bounty hunters were about to learn a hard lesson about the power of unexpected alliances. The bounty hunter's leader realized something was wrong when his third team member stopped responding to radio calls. They had entered the station expecting to find one injured shadow hunter. Instead, they were being picked off one by one in the darkness. "Form up," he shouted to his remaining crew. "Back to back. Whatever's happening, we handle it together." But that was exactly what Jack and Storm had planned for. From his position in the control room, Jack watched the thermal signatures of the 3 remaining hunters cluster together. He pressed a button on his console, and the floor panel beneath them suddenly opened. The hunters managed to avoid falling, but their tight formation broke apart. That's when Storm struck. The shadow hunter dropped from above, a silent shadow in the darkness. Before the hunters could react, it swept 2 of their weapons away with its tail. The massive creature moved with surprising grace, especially for one recently injured. "Shoot it," the leader screamed, raising his own gun. But Jack had already killed the gravity in that section. The hunters floated helplessly, their expensive armor now working against them as they tried to maneuver in zero gravity. Storm, however, used its claws to grip the walls, moving with practiced ease through the weightless environment. Jack's voice came over the station's speakers. "Drop your weapons, and you can leave alive. This is your only warning." "Who are you?" the leader demanded. "Do you know what that thing is?" "It's a killer." "No," Jack replied calmly, watching Storm carefully disable another hunter without causing serious harm. "You're the killers. Storm and its people were just defending themselves." The leader laughed harshly. "Storm, you named it. It's not a pet, you fool. It's the most dangerous predator in the galaxy." A new sound filled the corridor, a series of low rhythmic rumbles. Storm was laughing. Jack smiled and pressed another button. The station's emergency lights came on, revealing the scene. 2 hunters floated unconscious, their weapons drifting away in the zero gravity. The third hung suspended, staring in shock at Storm, who clung to the wall nearby. But what really caught the leader's attention was the small data drive floating past his face. Similar drives drifted all around them, each containing copies of the evidence Jack and Storm had gathered. "Take one," Jack said through the speakers. "Look at what's on it. See the truth about who's really been hunting whom." The leader grabbed a drive, his hands shaking slightly. "The corporation will never let you expose this." "The corporation isn't here," Jack replied. "But we are. And we're giving you a choice. Take the drive, look at the evidence, and help us expose the truth. Or," he let the sentence hang. Storm moved closer to the leader, its purple eyes glowing in the emergency lighting. The creature's claws could easily tear through the hunter's armor, and everyone knew it. The leader looked at the drive in his hand, then at Storm, and finally at the security camera he knew Jack was watching through. Slowly, he reached up and removed his helmet. "I've been hunting shadow hunters for 6 years," he said quietly. "Never seen one pass up a chance to kill before. Never thought." He trailed off, looking at his unconscious teammates. "What's really on this drive?" "The truth," Jack said simply. "About the research stations, about what they've been doing to Storm's people, about why shadow hunters attack human ships." The leader was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "If what you're saying is true, a lot of powerful people are going to want you dead." "They already do," Jack replied. "Question is, are you still working for them?" Storm moved to the control panel by the door and typed out a message that appeared on all screens. "Choose." Truth or lies. The leader looked at the message, then at the creature who had written it. His hands tightened on the data drive. I choose truth, he said finally. God help me, but I choose truth. Jack restored gravity to the section, and Storm helped the leader collect his unconscious teammates. A new alliance was forming, one that would shake the foundations of human-alien relations forever. The real fight, the fight to expose the truth, was just beginning. While the bounty hunter's ship computer processed the data from the drive, Jack and Storm showed their new allies around the research station. The leader, who called himself Tom, walked slowly through the laboratories, his face growing grimmer with each new discovery. 10 years, he muttered, looking at the holding cells. 10 years I've been hunting them, thinking I was protecting people. How did we not know about this? Storm typed on a nearby terminal. Corporation rich. Pays well. Keeps his HFYs. Atlas Corporation, Jack added, pulling up more files on his tablet. They're behind all of it. The research stations, the bounty contracts, even the news stories about shadow hunter attacks. They've been manipulating everything. Tom's teammates, now awake and equally shocked by the evidence, gathered around a large screen showing a map of known shadow hunter incidents. The pattern was clear. Every attack had been near a secret research facility. They weren't random attacks, one hunter said quietly. They were rescue missions. Storm made a soft, rumbling sound and typed again. My PUBLEPECFUL. Until TORTUR. Until THEFT of Children. The hunters looked away, shame clear on their faces. They had been part of this, however unknowingly. Their captures had fed this dark machine of corporate greed and scientific abuse. Jack's ship computer suddenly chimed an alert. Warning. Multiple ships detected entering the sector. Configuration matches Atlas Corporation's security fleet. Everyone tensed, but Jack smiled. Right on schedule, he said, shocking the others. You didn't think I came out here without a backup plan, did you? He moved to the main communication console and entered a series of commands. Immediately, the station's transmitters powered up to full strength. What are you doing? Tom asked. Broadcasting everything, Jack replied. Every file, every video, every piece of evidence. It's all being sent on all frequencies to every news outlet, government office, and public channel in range. And thanks to this station's powerful transmitters, that range is pretty big. Storm moved to Jack's side, its massive form somehow conveying approval. The creature typed, Truth flies faster than ships. The computer chimed again. Atlas Corporation vessels entering weapons range. They are charging weapons systems. They're going to destroy the station, one of the hunters said. Try to bury the evidence. They're too late, Jack said, watching the transmission progress bar. The data is already out there. But yes, we should probably leave before they arrive. Tom stepped forward. Our ship is faster than yours. We'll take you both. Storm tilted its head, purple eyes studying the hunter who had so recently been an enemy. Then it typed, Truisty grows like STRs, small lights as in darkness. Poetic, Jack commented, gathering the last of the physical evidence. I didn't know shadow hunters were philosophers too. The station shook as the first shots from the approaching Atlas ships struck its outer hull. The group quickly moved toward the docking bay, Storm easily keeping pace despite its recent injuries. As they ran, Jack's tablet kept displaying incoming messages. News agencies were already picking up the transmitted data. Social media was exploding with the revelations. The truth was spreading faster than Atlas could contain it. They reached the hunter's ship just as another blast rocked the station. As they prepared for emergency departure, Jack looked at the strange group they had become. A human researcher, a shadow hunter, and a team of former bounty hunters, all united by the truth. Storm typed one last message before they launched. Corporation think he's parier is weapons. Real power is knowledge shared. Tom looked at the message, then at his team. Well, he said, starting the ship's engines, let's go share some knowledge where it'll do the most good. I know some people in the Galactic Council who are going to be very interested in what we have to say. As their ship shot away from the dying research station, Jack watched Atlas's vessels growing larger on the view screen. They would be pursued, of course. The corporation wouldn't give up easily. But they had something more powerful than ships and weapons now. They had the truth, and they were about to change the galaxy with it. 3 months after their escape from the research station, Jack stood before the Galactic Council. The massive chamber was filled to capacity, with representatives from every known spacefaring species in attendance. But all eyes were fixed on the figure standing beside him. Storm towered over Jack, its dark scales gleaming under the chamber's lights. The Shadow Hunter's presence had caused panic when they first arrived. But now, after weeks of revelations and evidence, the fear had turned to something else: understanding. The evidence is undeniable, the council leader announced, her voice echoing through the chamber. Atlas Corporation engaged in illegal experimentation, propaganda, and the systematic persecution of an intelligent species. Their actions have led us to the brink of war with a civilization we never truly attempted to understand. Storm stepped forward and typed on the specialized console they had built for it. The words appeared on massive screens around the chamber. We HCCEP, your HCK now WLEG, a end of truth. Now we build an EW future. Jack smiled, remembering how far they'd come. The data they'd broadcast had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Atlas Corporation had tried to deny everything, but Tom and his team had known where to find more evidence. One by one, the corporation's secrets had been exposed. The council leader raised her hands for silence as murmurs filled the chamber. Today, we take the first step toward that new future. The Shadow Hunter delegation has agreed to open diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council, and they have requested that Jack Mason serve as the first official human ambassador to their people. Jack looked up at Storm in surprise. The Shadow Hunter's purple eyes seemed to twinkle with amusement. It typed again. You two and others feared. UISTNET there is shot. You are bridge between our kinds. The chamber erupted in applause. In the audience, Jack spotted Tom and his team, now working as security consultants for the council. They had helped track down and shut down the remaining research stations, freeing dozens of captured Shadow Hunters. There is more, the council leader continued. The Shadow Hunters have agreed to share their medical knowledge, legally and ethically this time. Their healing abilities could revolutionize our understanding of medicine. In return, we will help them reclaim their stolen technology and protect their territories. Jack stepped up to the console as planned. The Shadow Hunters aren't what we thought they were, he said, his voice carrying across the silent chamber. They're not mindless predators or simple beasts. They're poets, philosophers, and scientists. They have cities hidden in the dark spaces between stars, and technology we're only beginning to understand. All they ever wanted was to be left in peace. Storm made that rumbling sound that Jack now knew was laughter and typed. Not all PC now. Now we guarantee indie ship too. Because of you. The council session continued with discussions of treaties and agreements, but Jack found himself thinking about that moment in the research station, when he'd chosen to help instead of run. One simple act of kindness had changed the course of galactic history. Later, as they left the council chamber, Storm stopped Jack in a quiet corridor. The Shadow Hunter typed on a portable console. Remember, first meeting. You were scared, but helped. Why? Jack thought for a moment. Because you were hurt, and helping was the right thing to do. Sometimes it's that simple. Storm's eyes glowed warmly. Humans capable of great fear, great to. but also great courage, great to may pass on. You shall eat us better path. Together, they walked toward the chamber's massive windows, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, shadow hunter ships were meeting with human vessels in peace for the first time. Scientists from both species were beginning to work together. Understanding was replacing fear. What happens now? Jack asked. Storm typed its response. No it as HOWGLXY. What happens? We in a form your NMIs BC or many friends. When two US to replaces FER. When human and shadow hunter walk together. Jack nodded, watching the stars. The galaxy was changing, becoming something new and unexpected. All because one human had chosen to help instead of harm, to understand instead of fear. It was just the beginning.